apartment or buy-to-let family rental property. Which one is the best for landlords? So in this video, I'm going to share the advantages and disadvantages of buying houses, 3-bedroom houses versus buying flats. It is very common for property investors, especially people who are just starting out their property investment journey, to either buy houses or flats. It's the most common way to actually start your property investment journey because it involves less sort of kind of difficult to buy these sort of properties. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the pros and cons of each property type for buy-to-let investing, because it's very important for you to know what really suits you based on your investment strategy. The two most common thing investors look at basically when they start their property investment journey is basically either investing in houses or flats. So what is a house? What is a buy-to-let house? It can be defined as anything from a traditional dwelling to a large Victorian terrace house, either converted into bedsit, HMO, or things like that. And a flat is defined as a self-contained large block, either converted from a house or was purposely built to become an apartment. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of flats first before I look at the actual house itself, actual buy-to-let house. So the benefit of buying a flat, one way is basically flats are cheaper to buy. Okay, it's not as expensive as buying a whole residential property. And again, if you're starting your property investment journey and you're worried about starting because of money, you could kind of start with flats, because flat is not as expensive as if you were to buy a house. And the second thing, also the second benefit, flats are flexible living space. Okay, you can have the sitting room and the dining area, the kitchen, the same place. So it's very flexible, right? It's kind of suitable for a single family or couple that haven't got any kids. And also it's very easy to kind of move furniture around because you have this open plan, environment where it's very easy to actually decorate, move furniture around, get in a way that is really suitable for busy life professionals who do not have any kids. Flats are more desirable in cities and towns as well, because obviously they're usually in the middle of the city center or very close to city center, and obviously travel link is also easy as well, because most of them are very close to a train station, tube station, or maybe a tram. So basically it's very flexible. It's kind of it's desirable for a busy lifestyle people. So again, if you have a flat, you can target these sort of people because they are looking for things like that. They want to be very close to the train station, very close to the tube station, because they can hop in and hop out to actually go to work and obviously get back without having any sort of difficulties of jumping on the train and again get in a car or a bus to their houses. So again, that's one of the reasons why it may be desirable. It is the desirable for busy lifestyle people. Let's talk about the difficulties or the disadvantages basically. For a flat, flats have leasehold tenure. What that means basically, you do not own the land where the flat is. You only own that specific floor area of the property. So basically that's the reason why you're called a leaseholder, because you don't own the actual thing, you only own that confinement. Again, that's another disadvantage, because you only own that confinement. And then obviously the lease length diminishes over time, and obviously lease also is you get charged if you want to extend your lease, and there are also mortgage restrictions as well with some leases, especially if the leases are in a grade 2 building or maybe a grade 1 building. Again, lenders don't really like to lend in properties like that. And then with flat also, we have the ground rents to pay, because obviously you remember we don't own the land, and then obviously we have annual service charges as well to pay, because again we would have a maintenance company that will be looking after the whole building. There are leases where the ground rent double every 2 years. Imagine your ground rent is say £2,500 a year, and again in a couple of years time it will double to £5,000, and again in about a couple of years it will double to about £10,000. Again, you end up having lots of cost to actually keep that property, and again, some occasions that property becomes probably a nightmare, so to speak, especially if you haven't read that clause and you did not know that the ground rent doubles every couple of years or so. And then obviously if the ground rent increases, that then eats in your profit, and again there's certain amount you could charge for an apartment. Again, that is you squeezing the actual profit in. And again, when it comes to maintenance and repairs, it's very difficult for you to do the maintenance as well. If you got the maintenance within your flat, it's okay. If anything to do with the building, and then obviously you have to seek consent. You have to literally get someone to allow you to do whatever you want to do. And again, obviously you can hit with an unexpected bills when it comes to repairs, because obviously they would turn up and say they need to do a massive renovation within the building. Again, really, you're not in control there. If everybody in the building pays, you've got no choice but to actually pay, whether you like it or not. And again, that's another restriction that comes in when you are actually investing in flats, or when you invested in flats. And again, you have also restrictive covenant when it comes to flat. It would be somewhere in the agreement that probably where it might say the property must not use, for example, for short-term tenancy, or must not be used for whatever clause they put in that property. And in some occasions they have clause that says basically you cannot sublet the property, and then there's some clause that maybe you're not allowed to, families are not allowed to live in the property. There's so many clauses when it comes to buying a leasehold flat, because obviously when you get excited, some of us don't read things like that, and our solicitors sometimes assume that we know what we're getting into as well. And again, if suppose you want to do service accommodation in that property, if the clause tells you're not allowed to do short-term let, you won't be able to do short-term let in it. And if they tell you you're not allowed to sublet it, you won't be able to do a guaranteed rent on it as well. So again, that's another difficulties or disadvantage you get if you were to buy a flat. And again, you may face unexpected bill. For example, what happened with the Grenfell Tower, and now the government has literally stipulated that all high-rise buildings to have cladding. Again, if you bought a flat hoping that to be your home, not to have any other expense, that's another bill that's gonna hit you really, really hard. Again, it's out of your control, especially if everybody has paid for it. You'd have no choice but to pay for it. And again, that has literally destroyed the leasehold market. It has destroyed the actual flat values in the whole country because of the cladding issue. And again, that's an expected bill that they expect you, the leaseholder, to pay for. Potential issues with your neighbors as well. Suppose then with that flat they do not have clause for not having short-term rental. Suppose you convert that property into Airbnb. Maybe your guest made a bit of noise, and again the neighbors will rant at you. They will complain to the management agent. They would complain to the freeholder, and it's a bit of a friction there, because maybe some of your neighbors don't even want Airbnb or service accommodation to happen in that block. And then as soon as they know that's happening there, and again that literally causes you a nightmare. I had a problem with this actually in Cardiff. Secured a property very close to city centre on a rent-to-rent basis. Everything went well. We renovated the property. We spent about £5,000-6,000 to actually do it really, really nice. We did the property. We had the first guest, second guest, our third guest. The neighbors knew that property has been converted into short-let. Basically, they went to the management agent. They went to the freeholder, basically nagging the landlord, and then obviously told the landlord he has to stop. It has to stop. They have to stop renting the property on a short-term basis. And then obviously they were not allowed to do Airbnb in the property, because in their clause apparently they were not allowed to do short-term let. Again, guess that will get what that do. The landlord literally lose money on renting that property on a guaranteed rent basis, and obviously he had to compensate me for the actual cost I incurred to get that property to that standard. Again, these are the clauses that would restrict you from actually doing anything to the flat if you were to buy a flat. And obviously you need permission. Maybe you need permission to actually even improve your flat. It can be more difficult obviously getting works done because obviously you are in a block of building, right? If you live in the third or fourth floor, imagine if you have to get sand, cement, plaster up into your block again. You're messing the common area. People would complain. The maintenance company would complain. You know, you have to clean your way every single day. It's just a nightmare to do work in a flat. Okay, I've done that for an investor before, and I will never do it again because it's just too much of a hassle. Neighbors are complaining. They're saying we have to clean the flat every single day. Every day you work in that building, you have to literally mop, sweep, do every cleaning. You have to leave the property the way you found it the previous day or when you found it in the morning. Again, you have to work out when is the best to get delivery because you don't want to do it when everybody's going in and out of the building. It's just chaotic. And then if you ordered a ton of sand, where do you want the sand to stay? Where do you want, like it's a trouble. It's literally a nightmare to be able to do renovation works in an apartment block because of what I've just highlighted there. And in most cases, even if you want to do the works, the freeholders are very hard to get hold of. A management company also, you're not just going to ring them and tell them, they'll ask you to send an email. You have to wait for reply. You have to wait to get consent. It's just too much of a work. So again, that's another massive disadvantage of buying a flat. Let's talk about houses now, okay? Let's talk about freehold houses. I'm not talking about leasehold houses here. I'm talking about freehold 2 or 3 bedroom buy-to-let property. If you are buying a house, one of the disadvantages basically, it's a bit expensive. Let's be honest, okay? It's a bit expensive than a flat. If you want to buy a 3-bedroom house with a back garden and a front parking, it may cost you a bit more because obviously it's a house and you're buying the whole thing instead of buying a block within that house. And as a landlord, you're responsible for the whole property. You're responsible for repair and maintenance. Anything that goes wrong with that property, you're solely responsible to actually fix it. Again, that's another disadvantage because obviously whatever the cost is, you have to fit the bill, okay? You have to pay the bills yourself. And you are also sometimes responsible for the upkeep of the back garden, especially if the house is a shared house. It's a multi-let. Sometimes the tenants don't really kind of look after the common areas. Obviously, it's a responsibility to ensure the garden is looked after nicely, the front garden is looked after nicely. Again, these are the things that you would consider when you are buying a house. Now, let's talk about the benefit of buying a house, okay? This is the bit I like because I'm going to be a bit partial here. I'm analyzing it, but I'm trying to be neutral here so that you can see what the benefits and the disadvantages are as well. But let's talk about the advantages you get from actually buying a buy-to-let property. The first benefit is basically a house is desirable to affluent tenants and families because it comes with garden, outdoor space, garage. So basically it's more convenient for those sort of people, and then this sort of tenants are happy to pay premium for that service. And what that means basically, they are going to take on your property and they will stay there for a long time. They are long-term tenants, and we call them lifers because once they've moved into a house, they're going to stay there for a very long time because there's no reason to move out because they've got a garden, they have a bigger house, they have a parking, and it's a very close to an affluent area, and obviously it's a very close to a good school. Again, that reduces your voids in your rental income. Next, obviously they have their own parking spaces as well. Maybe they have a couple of car parking spaces, or maybe they have a back parking spaces. So again, they're kind of comfortable to actually stay in that house and they can pay premium for it. And again, as I've just said, houses normally have back gardens, and again, some comes with garages. Again, that's a massive advantage because obviously now the world we're living in, people are literally buying things every single day, okay? Sometimes we're buying things that we don't need. Again, if it's a flat, you've got nowhere to store it, right? But if it's a house, you've got a garage. You can actually use that garage as a storage to keep whatever you're not really using. Again, that's a massive benefit. That's the reason why some of the tenants, or most tenants, would pay premium for a house with a garage. And again, obviously, houses are freehold houses. Well, 99% of them or 98% of them are freehold houses. Again, you don't have to pay a leasehold for it. There's no management fees to pay or maintenance fees to pay, and there's no kind of leasehold to pay as well. So basically, once you've bought the property, the only thing you need to worry about basically is your mortgage, right, and your insurance. These are the main costs you need to consider when you're buying properties like that. In contrast, when it comes to flats, you've got your mortgage to worry about, you've got your ground rent to worry about, you've got your management fees to worry about, you've got your maintenance to also worry about. And again, in some occasions, you have to have a management agent to manage the property. Basically, it eats in a lot in your profit. Whereas for a simple buy-to-let house, you only kind of need your mortgage to be paid, as I said, and then obviously you have your insurance, and again you've got your management agent if you want someone else to manage the property. Again, that's another massive benefit. And again, when it comes to houses, there are flexibility there. You can force the appreciation in different ways. You can convert a house, that 2 or 3 bedroom house, into a HMO, house in multiple occupation, where you can rent the property in room by room basis instead of actually renting it as a family. So again, you can force the appreciation as well as force the rental income you receive in properties like that. And with houses, they tend to be not inside the city center. They tend to be in around non-city center areas. Again, it's very affluent, it's very quieter as well, especially if you're bringing up your kids. And then it's very close to recreational places like parks, things like that, and it's very accessible if you're using the motorways, etc., etc. Again, that's another benefit you can get if you were to buy a house instead of a flat. And again, obviously, you tend to have a nicer neighborhood as well, because obviously you've got people that are living in houses, and the value of your house grows faster than a flat as well. When you buy a house, obviously you've got all these features I've just talked about earlier on. If the capital appreciation tend to be a lot better compared to flat, because obviously you bought it outright as a freehold versus flat that you buy, where your lease length diminishes every year, and again that then ultimately tend to make your property depreciate in value. And again, when it comes to property, that's not the case. The property prices tend to go up in average about 7.5% to about 10% a year, and again that's a massive return on your investment. And again, houses have massive potentials. Okay, you can convert it, as I said, as a HMO, right? You can add an extra bedroom by going to the loft. You can extend the property at the back by extending your kitchen or having a bedroom at the back or an office at the back of the house. You can go sideways as well, and then you can go the other side as well. There's massive way you can force the appreciation when it comes to property, because basically it's yours. You can do whatever you want to it, but when it comes to flat, you can't do that. You are restricted. You know, you've got all those covenants, etc., etc. And again, obviously, you've got better lending options as well. You can actually dictate the market. You can literally control what you do, because you've got that exposure. When it comes to flat, you've got different lenders that don't like how the flat looks, don't like how the building looks, they don't like how the windows look. There's so many issues when it comes to that. When it comes to a house, basically, you've got lots of lenders out there that are happy to lend you money in your property, because they know that there's less restriction, less covenant, and whatever wrong with the property, you can fix it easily. So to conclude, okay, what is my kind of balanced view on flats and houses? So as I said, it depends on your strategy, right? Flats are okay, right? Especially if they have less restriction. Flats that would allow you to do maybe service accommodation, maybe flat that would allow you to do short-term let, for example, flats that would allow you to do short-term let. And again, it's very rare to see. And again, like flats, you are kind of restricted in it, So my balanced approach there, basically, for us to invest, I would honestly genuinely go for houses based on what I've just tell you, because there's massive benefit buying freehold houses than buying flats. So my conclusion in this regard is I would advise you, I recommend you buy a freehold buy-to-let property, because obviously you can force the appreciation, you can get better rent, you can get better tenants, you can get lifers in the properties, and then obviously if anything goes wrong with the property, you could easily fix it. And again, it's your house. You can actually use it for short-term rental, you can sublet it, you can do whatever you do want to do with it. You've got only one person to actually give a consent to, which is your lender. Okay, that is a less one of the things to actually worry about. So again, I strongly recommend you invest in buy-to-let freehold properties instead of flats. Again, if you like this video or any of my video, don't forget to share it with friends and family so that they can learn from it as well. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more amazing videos. I look forward to sharing in the next video. Thank you.